GamingBolt presents the most satisfying video game endings. The ending of a video game is oftentimes as important as the rest of the experience. After all, those hours upon hours of playing need to end somehow, and it would make sense to have a strong finish to what was a fun experience. Many games aim to deliver the most satisfying ending possible, even if it's not always a happy one. Let's take a look at such endings here. Metal Gear Solid 3. Picture this. You're Solid Snake, and the boss, your mentor and resident armbreaker, has finally been beaten. Sadly, even when receiving the location to the Philosopher's Legacy, Snake has to kill the boss to fulfill his mission. It's only later we learn that the boss actually completed her mission by dying, becoming a traitor and serving her country to the end. Snake receives the title of Big Boss from the United States President, but leaves immediately. As we cut to his visiting the grave of the boss, he sheds a tear for his departed friend and mentor. And then, Ocelot is revealed to be a triple agent for the CIA in a post-credits scene, but that's a whole other story. Red Dead Redemption. The ending for Red Dead Redemption isn't the happiest. After helping the Bureau of Investigation hunt down his old associates, we would think John Marston could have his family back and be happy. In fact, Marston is seen just living his life, being happy and swearing to never be an outlaw again. However, the Bureau returns to tie up loose ends, and Marston dies fending them off so that his son and wife can flee safely. You'd think the tragedy would be complete, but Marston's son Jack finds Ross, the main man behind his father's death, several years later. Facing him in a duel, Jack wins out and avenges his father. Grand Theft Auto 5. Michael, Trevor and Franklin are the various gateways into the insanity that is Grand Theft Auto 5. However, even as they fight, lie and disagree with each other, we kind of hope everything works out alright for them all. So, while you could opt to betray either Michael or Trevor as Franklin, committing the dirty work of the FIB's Steve Haynes and powerful billionaire Devin Weston, the real joy is standing together as a trio. This results in a battle with the FIB and Merryweather, but also wiping out all of the trio's enemies. In the end, our heroes are friends and find some manner of redemption for their actions. Gears of War 3. The Gears of War series probably isn't something you'd think about when it comes to player agency and choice. But we wanted the third game to end things on as satisfying a manner as possible, because there had been so much tragedy, sadness and bloodshed throughout the saga. Gears of War 3 goes a step further though, showcasing a world in ruins, but one that very much exists independent of the cog. We learn about Emulsion's effects, how the Lambent were created, the dire circumstances of the world, and the Locust's true reason for warring with humanity. The finale itself is bittersweet, with Adam Phoenix sacrificing himself, Queen Mira being defeated, and the world seemingly at peace. At a cost, of course. The Last Guardian. Say what you will about its issues, but The Last Guardian still presents a compelling story about a boy and what's essentially his pet, Trico. As the duo begin to trust each other, they face numerous adversaries like soldiers and the mysterious Master of the Valley. Of course, they succeed, but not before Trico returns the boy to his village and seemingly disappears on the brink of death. The entire story has been a flashback till now, and we learn that the boy is all grown up, narrating his encounters with Trico. Having found the same shield that helped on his journey, he reflects light towards the nest, the place where he met Trico for the first time, and we see that the latter has survived. You should honestly experience it for yourself if you haven't already. God of War. Past God of War titles have always been about the over-the-top violence and catharsis of Kratos finally killing his enemy. By God of War 3, even as we witness Kratos' demise, there was some introspection and soul-searching on his behalf. God of War takes those interpersonal demons of Kratos, but views them through the lens of an older, wiser warrior. So, while the climax may see Baldur fighting Atreus and Kratos in an epic battle with Freya looking on, the actual ending is something greater. It's Kratos' acknowledgement of his past and actions, of moving past the atrocities he's committed, and most importantly, recognizing the greatness of his son. Sure, there was still a bit of a cliffhanging, but Kratos was, for all intents and purposes, free. Journey. For some, journey may not possess much of a purpose. However, that old cliché of the journey being the experience rings true. Players must reach a large mountain with light emitting from its summit. Along the way, you learn of a civilization that collapsed, the ruins of which can be seen throughout the land. After reaching the summit, thanks in no small part to these mysterious white-robed figures, a shooting star emits from it. This showcases the entire journey taken by the player until now, along with various other travelers making their way to the mountain. From there, the question is whether to start anew. You also learn of the various other travelers who were beside you the entire time, reminding us that no journey is undertaken alone. Undertale. Talking about player agency, the real magic of Undertale, regardless of which approach you take, is in how much your decisions make a difference. The world itself is rich and full of character, so when Frisk stands against the older Asriel in an attempt to stop the apocalypse, seeing all your friends showing up to help is phenomenal. As the game ends, we see that humans and monsters have made peace again, and all is well. However, go on a genocidal run instead and the ending will see Chara destroying the universe, whether you want it or not. The game can be played again, but Chara's influence will taint all future playthroughs. Portal 2. The plot for Portal 2 is perhaps one of the finest in all of gaming. It's cleverly written, expands on the universe, and offers a new perspective for characters like GLaDOS. By the end, Shell and GLaDOS team up to fight Wheatley, who's eventually left in space to orbit around forever. And while GLaDOS does return to her typical evil self, she decides to release Shell, deeming her unworthy of all the trouble. Shell finally tastes freedom and also has the weighted companion cube by her side. Final Fantasy VIII. Depending on who you ask, the ending for Final Fantasy VIII is either fairly typical or insanely genius. After Squall and his friends defeat Ultimecia, Squall goes back in time to the point that Edea inherits her powers. However, as Squall tries to return to the present, he sees Rinoa, various scenes that led up to the main story, and even himself without a face. Eventually, Squall and Rinoa are reunited. Seifer has turned good, and all is right with the world. However, there's a theory that much of this is taking place in Squall's head, following his apparent death back in Timber. The entire game is basically Squall's mind going off the rails and struggling to really remember what's going on, subconsciously denying his own death. Whichever theory you subscribe to, the ending hits all the right notes. The Last of Us. The tale of Ellie and Joel as they travel nearly the length of the country is one of peril and emotion. Upon being captured by a Firefly patrol, Joel is informed by Marlene, the Firefly's leader, and the same person who gave him the job of transporting Ellie, that the latter has been taken into surgery. The process is meant to remove part of Ellie's brain to research how to make a cure. Unfortunately, this would kill Ellie, and Joel subsequently goes on a rampage. After killing Marlene and taking Ellie away, Joel says that the Fireflies couldn't find a cure, and thus just gave up. Ellie asks Joel to swear he's telling the truth, and then the story just ends, as doubt hangs in the air for years and years. Well, until the sequel, that is. Gravity Rush 2. Though Gravity Rush 2 finishes off a major conflict with all manner of space-time tears, the actual climax is insane. Not only do we learn Kat's true origins, but the so-called dark ocean beneath the ocean becomes a major threat. Eventually, with the help of the creators, Kat sacrifices herself to seal away the black hole for good. Oddly enough, she reappears a year later because, of course, she does. It may sound strange and a little cheesy, but the ending to Gravity Rush 2 ties up a number of plot lines, while still maintaining an over-the-top, not-too-serious vibe. Nier, Ending D. Before Nier Automata was hitting us in the fields with its various tragedies, The first Nier presented us with lovably quirky characters who were nonetheless trapped in their own horrible circumstances. We won't attempt to recap the entire experience, but Ending D centers around Kain, your companion possessed by a shade. Saving Kain requires playing the game for a third time and either killing her or sacrificing Nier's life. The latter results in Nier's demise, but also removes any memory that anyone ever had of him. The player's save game is deleted, and if you want to start a new game, choosing the same name isn't even possible. Hotel Dusk, Room 215. Mysteries layered upon mysteries. That best describes the noir-esque storytelling here. The plot revolves around Kyle Hyde, who checks into the mysterious Room 215 in Hotel Dusk while trying to find his former partner Brian Bradley. From there we learn of the hotel's origins, who's behind it, and what led Hyde to this moment. The ending itself sees Hyde finally figuring out the hotel's past and moving on to find Bradley. However, the plot and moments that led up to this chance meeting and the ominous post-credits scene make for one of the most satisfying endings out there.
And that wraps it up. If you like what we're doing, please consider subscribing to our channel. We upload new videos daily, so make sure you don't miss them by subscribing. We appreciate your support, and we thank you for checking us out.